2025 was a year of many hit songs and artists full of talent, but above all the others, there were a few who stood out from everybody else with their hard work and dedication. And what better place to acknowledge this than the 2025 Caribbean Music Awards, which is essentially the Grammys for Caribbean music. However, when they announced the award for Best Artist of the Year, a number of fans were shocked that it was given to somebody who they didn't expect, the one and only Vybz Kartel. And as much as this is Vybz Kartel we're talking about, the reason fans were surprised is because there was one other person who had such an outstanding performance this year that it rivaled even the world boss himself, and that man is none other than Masicka. But as much as Masicka had an amazing year full of consistency, did he really deserve to win over the world boss? Well, to answer this question, we need to take a look at both of their accomplishments, starting all the way back in January, where the year was started off with the biggest dancehall event probably in history, Freedom Street. Returning from prison after 13 years, Vybz Kartel would emerge at his concert Freedom Street for his first public performance since incarceration, and make international headlines in the process. The event was so big that it had people flying in from all corners of the world just to see it, and also had the entirety of Jamaica flooding into Kingston just to reach to the National Stadium. Despite the insanely high prices, of course it sold out anyway, and in terms of sheer crowd pulling ability, there is pretty much nobody else who could have achieved such an effect, with rumors even suggesting that Drake himself would be in attendance at the concert. After the crazy events of this concert and the aftermath, Kartel wasted no time running straight back into the music, and just a week later released the popular song Straight Vibes alongside his new brand of liquor with the same name. He was all over the headlines at this point, as everybody was now seeing this new product in stores and wanted to see what it tasted like. The song also amassed 6.8 million views, and Kartel was being posted pretty much every single day by every media outlet for a different reason. It was probably the most attention I've ever seen somebody in Jamaica get in a certain period of time, and just a week after that, he would release another popular song called I'm Out, a play on his famous outro he does after every video. All of the hype seemed to be leading up to something though, and the suspicions were confirmed when just 2 weeks after that, Kartel would drop an EP called Viking, a 10-year anniversary deluxe of his 2015 EP with the same name, that came with some new songs, one of them being one of his biggest hits of the whole year, God Is The Greatest. In terms of numbers, this song easily surpassed everything Kartel had put out since he had been out of prison, and became so widely played that even my grandmother knows it. The music video has also amassed over 19 million views in just 6 months and features DJ Khaled as a guest in the shoot. However though, the EP was not all positive, and unfortunately for Kartel in this comparison, we do have to acknowledge that the rest of the songs did not go anywhere near as crazy as that song. But despite these low moments, he would eventually find another moment of success with dropping a music video for his song Ignite the World, which would amass over 11 million views. Over the next 2 months, Kartel would drop all of 8 whole songs, some of which leaning into a Christian direction despite being rather questionable in comparison to some other titles. But regardless, the numbers were okay even though they were not too crazy, and maybe some people thought that the hype of him coming out of prison was slowly dying down. However, that all changed when a familiar face returned to the scene. With his first juggling of the year since 2024, OG Gaza producer Russian rolled out with a brand new rhythm called the Storybook rhythm. And who better to have as the first person to jump on than Vybz Kartel himself, which is exactly what he did with the song Storybook. And that song absolutely exploded and was loved by many people, amassing over 6 million views and continuing to grow and be played alongside the rest of the Storybook rhythm lineup. However though, unfortunately, we do have to acknowledge that the rest of the year has not necessarily been as kind. Since Storybook, Kartel has dropped many songs, and as much as I think the quality is a lot better than what he was releasing while he was in prison, in terms of sheer accomplishments, it's clear that none of these are hit songs. And if we're being completely honest, as much as Vybz Kartel plays in every single party I go to, I can't remember the last time I heard them play even a single one of his recent songs. There is one person though that I have to admit, I haven't been to a single place and they did not play his music. And even though certain accomplishments may not have been reached yet, you cannot deny the hold he has on the younger generation, and that is none none other than Masicka. As much as Masicka's year did not start off with the biggest concert the country has ever seen, which fun fact he was supposed to perform at, but due to contractual obligations he wasn't able to go, he did come into 2025 with arguably the most publicly played song of the year, Whites, the easiest pull-up of all time. Any DJ knows that once they let that rhythm play, the number of gun fingers in the air could take on a whole army. The Whites music video has amassed over 25 million views, and as much as it was released at the very end of 2024, we do have to acknowledge most of the views and plays came from this year, which was followed up by the success of another song called Trophies, a reflective piece about his accomplishments in the game and showing his many Billboard plaques, which, keeping the trend of consistency, got another 7 million views. After this though, I'm not going to lie, he did something that made me shake my head a bit and wonder, what the heck is this on my screen? Of course, I'm talking about the Whites remix with famous rapper French Montana. I'm not going to pretend like I know that much about French Montana or his music, but one thing I do know is that this song definitely did not need to exist. Genuinely no hate, but I don't think there was a single person who heard "We no mix and mingle" and said, yo, you know who we need pon this? Yo, ooh. French Montana, you know that. Nobody was saying that, bro. And you know what? Fine. Let's say we did want him on the song. The least he could do was actually make his verse good and not whatever this offbeat mess with him trying to do a fake Jamaican accent is. Because I get that many rappers are Jamaican or have Jamaican ties, but this nigga has nothing to do with us. But you know what? Hey, it's good for our economy, I guess. So whatever. After this very questionable release, which is probably why it only got 3 million views, we do have Masicka's next major release of the year, a song called Mute, which went crazy on social media, and even though it got some backlash for sounding like Whites Part 2, it did get over 10 million views in a very short time. Fans thought that this song was an absolute banger, with almost 40k uses on TikTok and many people screaming the lyrics word for word whenever it plays. The song would be followed by another called Overdose, which was more of a bedroom banger, and the views aren't crazy, but maybe that's just cause enough on a nana woman and a back on the fist. Fun and joke aside though, it is the lowest point of Masicka's year numbers wise. However, he immediately made up for it tenfold, quite literally, with his very next song. A song that would remind him why people classify him alongside the greats. Just a few days after Russian released the Storybook Rhythm, the next hit song was loading, and that was none other than Masicka's song Rich Sex. And to say this song went absolutely insane would be selling it short. Every man, woman, student, employee, and their mother was posting this song, as it went on to become the biggest one on the Storybook Rhythm, even surpassing Passenger Princess. Not only did this song do crazy numbers, but comparatively speaking, it also became way bigger than Vybz Kartel's version, which is where we have to ask ourselves, when putting these discographies side by side for the year, we can clearly see that Vybz Kartel has dropped far more songs than Masicka, including an entire EP and a whole album, which adds to a combined total of approximately 32 songs so far for 2025. And out of those 32 songs, only about 5 of them became hits. 6 if you're going to count Skillibeng's New Gears remix that just released. Masicka, on the other hand, only dropped a whopping 7 songs in 2025, with an 8th dropping recently and seeming on a very good trajectory. And pretty much every single one of these songs has amassed crazy numbers. Even if we take Whites out of the discussion, his biggest song of the year, Rich Sex, has 16 million views in just 3 months, while Kartel's biggest hit has 19 million views in 6 months. And I know I'm not the best at math, but that means it's going to overtake it. And with his new song Autocrat coming in hot as well, the rest of the numbers are honestly saying that Masicka's music is being streamed on a much more consistent basis by this current generation of listeners. Therefore, I do believe that in terms of sheer objective data, Masicka wins this battle. And that's not to say that Kartel didn't do major things. The first half of the year, you literally could not escape him. But if we're talking about musical hype alone, I didn't even know Kartel dropped an album last month until I went to make this video. But if Masicka were supposed to announce one, well, just know that people are still glazing 438 and Generation of Kings for a reason. And this is no shade to the world boss whatsoever, because the truth is, this man is a grandfather, he's a father, he's soon to be a husband. The man has lived his life and accomplished what he's to accomplish. I don't even think he wants to be compared to Masicka right now, who we can all agree probably does deserve the flowers. And Kartel would probably have given him the award himself if he was running the show. After all, they are friends.
Genocide. family this, remember, we put friend aside.
The family and we put 10 aside.
Speaking of numbers though, some of you may be aware of this, but others may not be. No matter how many views you get, YouTube still does not pay Jamaican creators nearly as much as they pay Americans. Which is why for those of you who want to see this high production content at a faster rate, we've opened a support link in the description for any fans who believe in the vision of what this channel is trying to build and want to help it along. And you can also send in video suggestions using this method. We appreciate all who choose to support to the fullest. And as always, the dancehall has been decoded.